The universe was once a place of peace. Across countless stars, different races and species lived together, bound by the Pact. This was no ordinary agreement. It was a promise of harmony, built on trust and mutual respect. The Pact had held for centuries, keeping the galaxy from falling into chaos. But all of that changed when one of the most trusted allies betrayed humanity. It began with whispers, rumors, and small signs of tension. No one noticed at first. Earth's government, leaders who had long been at the center of the peace treaty, saw nothing wrong. They believed their allies. But something was wrong. The humans were being shut out of important decisions. The other species in the Pact were secretly making their own deals, leaving humanity in the dark. The betrayal was quiet, almost unnoticeable, like a crack in the foundation of a great building. But as time passed, that crack grew, and the consequences would soon be impossible to ignore. The betrayal wasn't just about breaking promises, it was about survival. The humans had been vital to the peace agreement. Without their strength, their technology, and their resources, the Pact would crumble. The alien alliance had used humanity as a shield, gaining benefits from their participation, and now they were ready to cast them aside. The humans were no longer wanted. In the midst of this, the leaders of Earth made a bold decision. They would not let the betrayal slide. The time for peace was over. If the Pact could be broken so easily, then humanity would take matters into their own hands. A message needed to be sent, loud and clear. Earth wasn't weak. Earth wasn't afraid. A human envoy was chosen, a representative of Earth's might and pride. Their mission was simple: confront the alien leaders and demand justice. But this envoy wasn't going to beg or plead for peace. No, this envoy would deliver humanity's wrath. The Pact had been shattered, and the consequences would be devastating. As the envoy prepared for the journey, they knew the stakes. They were about to enter enemy territory, surrounded by those who had betrayed their people. The air was thick with the weight of their mission. They would need to be brave, sharp, and ready for anything. The alien alliance was vast, their worlds spread across the stars. But the envoy had no doubt they would make it. To the heart of the betrayal and face the alien leaders, the journey wasn't going to be easy. The first signs of danger appeared almost immediately. Alien ships, once friendly, now watched them suspiciously. Messages of warning began to come through, urging the envoy to turn back. But there was no turning back now. The betrayal had already been done, and the envoy had no choice but to move forward. With every passing light year, the tension grew. The envoy's ship glided silently through space, the stars around them a cold reminder of how isolated they were. The mission was clear, but the uncertainty was overwhelming. What would the alien leaders do when they saw the envoy? Would they surrender peacefully, or would they fight to the end? The envoy's mind raced, trying to anticipate every possible outcome. The fate of humanity rested on their shoulders. Finally, the envoy arrived at the first alien world, the heart of the Alliance. The planet loomed large, its surface covered in strange cities and towering structures. The humans had never set foot here before. They had always been guests, welcomed by the other species. But now they were an enemy. The envoy took a deep breath as their ship descended. The gravity of their task heavier than ever. The alien world was a strange mix of technology and nature. Towering skyscrapers reached up to the sky, but the landscape was filled with lush forests, rivers, and open fields. It was beautiful, almost peaceful. But the envoy knew that peace was just an illusion. Beneath the surface, tensions simmered. Humanity had been cast aside. and the alien alliance was preparing to make its next move. As the ship touched down, the envoy felt a strange sense of calm. They knew what had to be done, and they were ready. This was the moment when humanity would prove its strength. They would no longer be ignored or betrayed. The envoys stepped out of their ship, their boots touching the alien soil for the first time. Their mission had begun. The leaders of the alien alliance were waiting. The envoy knew they would have to be careful. The alien leaders were powerful, and they would not give up their position without a fight. The envoy would need to use every skill they had: diplomacy, negotiation, and even threats if necessary. But no matter what happened, they couldn't fail. The fate of humanity was in their hands. As they walked toward the gathering of alien leaders, the envoy's mind raced with thoughts of revenge. The pact had been broken. Now, humanity's wrath would be unleashed. The alien world was nothing like Earth. The sky was a deep purple, unlike anything humanity had ever seen. Strange, bioluminescent plants glowed in the distance, casting an eerie light across the landscape. Despite its beauty, the air was thick with unease. The envoy's boots pressed firmly against the alien soil, but their heart pounded with the weight of their mission. The gravity of the moment was undeniable. This wasn't just a diplomatic mission. It was the first step in humanity's vengeance. As the envoy moved toward the alien leaders, they couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The peace they had once known with the aliens was long gone. The pact had been shattered, and in its place there was nothing but a void, a chasm between species that could no longer be bridged. Humanity had always believed in fairness, but now it was clear that the other races had no intention of keeping their promises. This was no longer about peace, it was about power. The envoy entered the grand hall, a vast chamber adorned with strange alien symbols and flickering holograms. The leaders sat at a long, polished table, their expressions unreadable. They watched the human envoy with cold eyes, their silent presence filling the room with tension. The air seemed to hum with a strange energy, as if the very walls were waiting for something to happen. The lead alien, a towering figure with shimmering silver skin, spoke first. "Humanity has come to our doorstep, uninvited," they said, their voice smooth, almost hypnotic. "What brings you here, envoy of Earth?" The envoy didn't flinch. They knew this was the moment when they would speak the words that would either break or mend the future of humanity. "You broke the pact," the envoy said, their voice steady, unwavering. "Humanity has always honored its promises. But you betrayed us. You lied, manipulated, and cast us aside. And now there will be consequences." The alien leaders exchanged glances, but there was no sign of guilt. Instead, they seemed almost amused. "Consequences," the leader repeated with a faint smile. "Do you think your wrath will intimidate us, envoy? You, a mere speck in the vastness of the universe. We are the ones who hold the power now." The words stung, but the envoy stood tall. "You may hold power," they said, "but power without honor is nothing, and humanity's wrath is not something to be taken lightly." For a moment there was silence. The tension between them was palpable. The envoy's words hung in the air, heavy with the promise of retribution. Humanity's wrath had been underestimated, but now the envoy could feel it bubbling beneath the surface, ready to be unleashed. "You think you can intimidate us with your threats?" The alien leader continued, now standing. "We've been allies for years, and you've chosen to sever that bond over petty grievances. Do you truly believe Earth can face us alone? The envoy took a deep breath. They had anticipated this. The aliens would try to undermine humanity's resolve. They would twist the truth, make it seem as if the betrayal was nothing more than a misunderstanding. But the envoy wasn't fooled. Humanity had suffered for too long, and it was time for a reckoning. "We're not alone," the envoy said, their voice growing stronger. "We've seen the truth. You've manipulated the Pact for your own gain, leaving us vulnerable. But humanity is not weak. We will not be your pawns any longer." The alien leader's expression shifted. For the first time, a hint of doubt appeared in their eyes. "And what will you do about it? You come here, demanding justice, but what can you offer? You're outnumbered, outmatched, and outclassed. What makes you think you stand a chance?" The envoy took a step forward, their voice cutting through the tension like a knife. "We offer more than you could ever understand. We offer the strength of a united people. We offer the fury of a species that has been pushed to the edge. And we offer the one thing you can never take back, our revenge." The alien leader's amusement faltered. The room was silent now, every alien present weighing the weight of the envoy's words. They had underestimated humanity, dismissed them as insignificant. But now it was clear the envoy wasn't just here for a peaceful resolution. They were here to change the balance of power forever. For a moment, the universe seemed to hold its breath. The alien leaders, once confident in their superiority, were no longer sure. The envoy had planted the seed of doubt, and that was all they needed. The room was charged with an energy that had never been there before. Humanity was no longer the weak ally, it was the force to be reckoned with. The envoy turned toward the door, their mission far from over. They knew the path ahead would be fraught with danger, but they had delivered the message. Humanity's wrath had been unleashed, and it was only a matter of time before the universe felt its fury. The envoy left the grand hall with a sense of victory, but they knew the battle had only just begun. The alien leaders were shaken, but they weren't ready to concede. They would not surrender easily. The envoy's message had struck a chord. But now it was time to dig deeper, to uncover the true depth of the betrayal. Humanity needed answers, and the envoy would stop at nothing to find them. In the days that followed, the envoy moved through alien cities, speaking to those who had once been allies, seeking the truth that had been hidden from them. The further they ventured, the clearer it became. The betrayal had been planned for years. The alien alliance had been working behind the scenes, manipulating humanity's trust and slowly chipping away at the foundation of the Pact. The humans had been used as pawns in a game they didn't even know they were playing. One night, in a dimly lit room, the envoy met with a former ally, a high-ranking diplomat who had once been a close friend of Earth's leaders. The diplomat had long since fallen out of favor with the alien leaders, but they still had valuable information. The envoy knew they had to be careful. Trust had been broken, and every word spoken could be a lie. The diplomat's eyes darted nervously as they spoke. "You don't understand," they whispered, their voice trembling. "The Pact was never meant to be fair. It was always a means to an end. The alien leaders knew they could never fully trust humanity, but they needed you to win the war. Once that was done, once they had their power, they planned to discard you." The envoy's heart sank. The war they had fought in had been nothing more than a stepping stone for the aliens. Earth's sacrifice, its soldiers, its resources, all being used as a tool to strengthen the alien alliance. Humanity had never been more than a stepping stone to their true goal. total domination of the galaxy. But there was more. The diplomat leaned in closer, eyes wide with fear. The worst part is not just humanity they betrayed. There are others who think they are allies, but they are being played just like you. The aliens are manipulating everyone, pulling the strings in the shadows. They'll turn on each other once they no longer need them. No one is safe. The envoy's blood ran cold. This wasn't just a matter of humanity's betrayal. It was a galactic conspiracy. The alien leaders had planned to destroy all who were not in their favor, using everyone as pawns in their quest for absolute power. The very foundations of the galaxy's peace had been shattered. Armed with this knowledge, the envoy knew they had to act quickly. Time was running out. If the alien leaders realized that their treachery had been uncovered, they would do everything in their power to silence the human envoy before the truth spread further. But the envoy couldn't stop now. The message was too important. Humanity had been betrayed, yes, but so had the rest of the galaxy. The envoy's next move was clear. They would expose the conspiracy, reveal the true nature of the alien alliance, and ignite a revolt that would shake the stars themselves. But to do that, they would need allies. They would need to find those who had also been deceived, who could help them bring the alien leaders to justice. The search for these allies took the envoy deep into the underbelly of alien society, into hidden places where the rebellion was already brewing. There were whispers of resistance, scattered pockets of dissent among the alien species who had once believed in the Pact. The envoy found them, rallied them, and together they began to form a coalition to challenge the alien alliance. As they gathered their forces, the envoy's thoughts turned to Earth. How would they respond when the truth was revealed? Would they join the revolt, or would they hesitate, unsure of their place in the galaxy now that the Pact was broken? The envoy knew the answer would depend on how quickly they could strike. The message was clear. Humanity could no longer afford to trust the alien alliance. They had been used, betrayed, and now it was time to take a stand. The envoy's mission was no longer just about revenge. It was about saving the galaxy from the very forces that had caused so much pain and suffering. And in that moment, the envoy realized that the true strength of humanity wasn't just in their technology, their military, or their resources. It was in their willingness to fight for what was right. No matter the cost, the galaxy had been deceived, but humanity would no longer be passive. They would lead the charge, and this time they would not be silenced. The pieces were now in place, and the stakes had never been higher. The envoy stood at the helm of an unlikely coalition, mix of betrayed alien factions and renegade humans who had seen through the lies. The galaxy was on the brink of war, but this time humanity would not be a passive bystander. They had been betrayed, used, and cast aside, but now they were ready to show the universe their true power. Humanity's wrath would be the force that would unmake the alien alliance and reshape the future. The envoy gathered their newfound allies in a hidden underground base on one of the farthest moons in the galaxy. The moon was cold, its surface cracked and barren, a place where the powerful could not follow. The allies, a motley group of rebels, soldiers, and former diplomats, all shared one thing in common: they had all been betrayed by the same alliance. They were united now, not just by the anger of betrayal, but by a shared vision of the future, one where power didn't rest in the hands of a few self-righteous aliens. "We've suffered too long," the envoy said, standing before the gathered group. "We've been betrayed, lied to, and used. Now it's time to make them pay." We will not sit idly by while the galaxy burns at the hands of the alien alliance. We will take back what is ours. We will show them what happens when you break a promise to humanity." The group was silent, the weight of the envoy's words sinking in. There was no going back now. The rebels and soldiers knew what this meant. If they failed, they would not only die, but would leave the galaxy at the mercy of the alien leaders. But if they succeeded, they struck first and fast. They could bring an end to the betrayal and make the universe a safer place. "How do we strike?" one of the rebel commanders asked, his voice low and filled with resolve. "We strike where it hurts the most," the envoy said. "The alien leaders think they can hide behind their fleets and their armies, but they don't know what we're capable of. We will destroy their most important asset, their control over the galaxy's communication network. Without it, they'll be blind. They won't be able to coordinate their forces. It's our chance to hit them when they least expect it." The room filled with murmurs of agreement. This wasn't just a fight, it was a mission of precision, one that would require everything they had. But the more they talked, the more it became clear. This wasn't about revenge alone. This was about justice, about righting the wrongs that had been done to humanity and the other races, about making sure that no one else would ever have to face the same betrayal. The plan was set. The envoy and their allies would infiltrate the central hub of the alien communication network, a massive, heavily guarded space station that orbited the largest of the alien worlds. It was where all transmissions and orders came from, a place so vital to the alien alliance that losing it would cripple their forces. The attack would be swift, with no room for failure. As the final preparations began, the envoy sat alone for a moment, staring out into the cold emptiness of space. The weight of their mission was heavy, but they had no doubt that humanity's wrath would carry them through. They had no choice but to succeed. The galaxy had been betrayed, and humanity was not going to stand by while others suffered. The silence of space was interrupted by the crackle of a message on the envoy's communicator. It was a transmission from Earth. "Envoy," the voice on the other end said, "we've received word of your mission. The situation here is escalating. The betrayal runs deeper than we thought. We're with you. We'll support you in any way we can." A sense of pride filled the envoy. Earth was ready to fight. Humanity had found its resolve. There was no turning back now. The countdown began. The envoy and their crew launched into the void, their ship speeding toward the heart of the alien stronghold. As they approached the space station, the tension was palpable. The fate of the galaxy rested on their shoulders. If they failed, the Alliance would tighten its grip on the galaxy. If they succeeded, they would deliver a blow so powerful that it would send shockwaves through every alien faction. The space station loomed ahead, its massive structure stretching across the horizon. Alien ships patrolled the area, but the envoy's forces were ready. They had trained for this moment, and every muscle in their bodies was ready to move. This was no longer just a mission, it was the beginning of a new era. "Prepare to board," the envoy ordered, their voice cold and steady. "We end this now." As the strike team made their way to the space station, the envoy felt a strange sense of peace. They had done everything they could. Humanity's wrath was no longer a threat, it was a promise that the galaxy would not fall to those who sought to control it, a promise that humanity would no longer be ignored. The attack began, swift and brutal, as the envoy and their team stormed the space station. Alien forces fought back, but they were unprepared for the ferocity of humanity's response. Each alien resistance was met with the unrelenting might of human vengeance. The space station shook under the force of the attack, but the envoy didn't hesitate. They pressed on, determined to destroy the one thing that held the alien alliance together. As the communication network fell silent, the alien leaders realized they had underestimated humanity's wrath. It was too late to stop the revolt now. The silence of space was broken by the roar of battle. The moment the envoy and their team boarded the alien space station, the conflict erupted into chaos. Flashing lights, clashing weapons, and the heavy sound of boots against metal filled the air. The rebellion had begun, and there was no turning back now. Humanity's wrath, fueled by betrayal, anger, and a thirst for justice, had come to life. The galaxy would feel its fury, and the alien leaders would learn that humanity was no longer weak. The envoy moved swiftly through the corridors, their pulse steady, their focus unwavering. They had been trained for moments like this, and their mind was as sharp as ever. Every step was calculated, every move precise. The alien forces fought back fiercely, but they were not prepared for the ferocity of humanity's strike. The envoy's team, made up of rebels and soldiers from across the galaxy, fought with a coordinated strength that sent shockwaves through the alien resistance. It wasn't just about revenge anymore, it was about reclaiming what had been stolen and protecting the future of the galaxy. Move forward, the envoy commanded, their voice cutting through the din of battle. We don't stop until the communication network is destroyed. The space station was a maze of towering walls and narrow hallways, but the envoy knew where they had to go. They reached the central control room, where the core of the alien communication network resided. Behind the reinforced doors, the heart of the Alliance's power beat. Destroying it would cripple the alien leadership, throwing their forces into disarray and giving the rebellion a fighting chance. But as the envoy approached the door, the unmistakable sound of approaching footsteps echoed through the hallway. The alien leaders were closing in. The final confrontation was about to begin. Prepare for the worst, the envoy muttered under their breath. Eyes narrowed. The door to the control room slammed open, and the alien leaders appeared. They were flanked by their elite guards, towering and formidable, each one a symbol of the power that had once threatened to crush humanity. But now, that power seemed fragile. The alien leaders, once so sure of their dominance, stood face to face with the envoy wrath incarnate. You should have stayed away, the lead alien said, their voice laced with venom. You think you can stop us? You, a few rebels, trying to defy the will of the galaxy. You're nothing. The envoy's eyes flashed with cold fury. You underestimated humanity. You thought we were just pawns in your game, that we would be too weak to fight back. But you were wrong. We will not be silenced. You broke the pact, and now you will face the consequences. The alien leader's eyes narrowed, and they raised a hand, signaling their guards to advance. The envoy's team stood ready, their weapons at the ready. The final battle had begun. Shots rang out as the guards charged, but the rebels were quick, cutting down the alien forces with precision. The envoy stood their ground, watching the alien leader closely. This was it, the moment they had been waiting for. The fate of humanity, the fate of the galaxy, hung in the balance. With one final roar, the envoy lunged forward, locking eyes with the alien leader. The battle between them was intense, a blur of movement and skill. The alien was powerful, but the envoy had something they lacked: an unbreakable will, a fire that had been ignited by years of betrayal and hardship. Humanity's fury was a force that could not be stopped. In the end, it was the envoy who struck. the final blow. With a swift, decisive movement, they disabled the alien leader, sending them crashing to the ground. The leader's final breath was a gasp of disbelief, unable to comprehend that they had been defeated by the very species they had once considered beneath them. As the alien leader fell, the envoy turned to the control room's main console. With a single strike, they activated the self-destruct sequence, setting the communication network on a countdown to destruction. The alien alliance's grip on the galaxy would soon be gone, and with it, their power. "We've done it," the envoy said, breathing heavily, their voice filled with triumph. "The galaxy is ours once again." But there was no time to celebrate. The space station was on the verge of exploding, and the team had only moments to escape. The countdown was ticking, the alarms blaring as the entire structure began to shake. The envoy and their team raced toward the exit, dodging debris and evading alien forces still trying to stop them. As they reached the docking bay, the massive station shook with the force of the impending explosion. The envoy looked back, seeing the alien stronghold beginning to crumble. It was over. The alien alliance had been brought to its knees, and humanity had won, with seconds to spare. The envoy and their team boarded their ship and blasted off, escaping the destruction just as the space station erupted in a fiery explosion, lighting up the galaxy as the ship sped away. The envoy looked out at the stars. The war wasn't over yet, but this was the beginning of something new. Humanity had taken a stand, and the universe would never be the same again. They had delivered their wrath, and the galaxy would remember